Hello and welcome to New Orleans Review by O.C. Dove's Films. Well, I caught a flight from John Wayne Airport in Orange County to Houston and then to New Orleans. Here I am, the Dove Guy, and I'll be your tour guide today through New Orleans. I stayed at the Crown Plaza next to the Ritz-Carlton at the start of Bourbon Street. Excellent location. Either one of these two are probably the best locations I could see when I went to New Orleans. Alright, the time of year is May, and May was an excellent time as far as weather, and it wasn't too crowded, but there were people there too. So it was actually a good opportunity for filming. There wasn't too many bodies like Mardi Gras. So this is an excellent time weather-wise, crowd-wise. It was just the perfect amount. So it was a really, really great experience going to New Orleans. And it was really happening, and this is just in a week with the amount of people, so I was pleasantly surprised. And this is a famous drink, that grenade one. That's like their signature drink there, and you'll find it in many of the bars. Alright, when I was here in California, I went on the computer. This is what came up. There's Gators and Ghosts, and I booked all my excursions through them. But make sure you get a hold of them like 48 hours earlier before you go on the trip, not the last minute. They did a good job, and most of these excursions you see, they helped arrange for me. Alright, here's some more photos I took of Bourbon Street. And I was quite the sight with all the cameras. I don't think they'd ever seen a guy with so many cameras going down the street. I got some looks. But I did some good recording. I caught some really epic pictures of this lovely city that I'd never even been to before. Now, if you ever come to New Orleans, make sure you have your phone ready and your camera ready. Excellent place to have photos, all kinds of culture. Now, the biggest alligators I saw were hanging in the stores, and it seemed like about every 5 or so stores had an alligator stuffed in it in there to greet you. This is more of a local spot. It's farther up Bourbon Street. When you're in New Orleans, you have to try alligator. Now, this is battered on one side and black peppered on the other, so you decide what you want. And also, this is baked oyster. Excellent. You must try it there. It tasted so good. I saw Ganesh all over in New Orleans. That kind of surprised me. An Indian god all around there, but you never know what you'll see in New Orleans. Alright, New Orleans, I heard people say a little bit there's a few homeless, but it's nothing comparable like to Los Angeles. But to them, they think it's horrible, but it's really minute compared to you come out to LA and even parts of Orange County we have one stretch, it's almost 3 miles of homeless people. So we're more of a dumping ground, but they were not happy about it, the locals there. Alright, here's where we had the meet for our Gators and Ghosts excursion to the St. Louis I cemetery. You must have a guide, and there's no video recording at this. You can take photographs though, but there was no video recording, and they watched like hawks. Alright, here's my Dove, and here's a photograph of the St. Louis Cemetery 1. And it is an experience, and here was our lovely guide. Something I noted when I went to the St. Louis I cemetery, and the other ones for that matter, is the defacing of many of the plots. I've never seen any place in the world where so many deep-faced plots where they'd broken off the statues' heads, taken them and broken their plots, but they systematically went through and destroyed most of the Civil War veterans' plots because I could not find any, and the guides would not show me where any were. Alright, this is the Nicolas Cage plot. He bought this for when he passes away, and that his plot, that pyramid to the left. And you'll see the lipstick where women, I think it's women, it could be men, are kissing it, his plot, that spot. And of course, I didn't put my lips on there. Anyways, that's his, and that's one of the interesting places you'll see. And here's more of the defacing and stuff you'll see of these plots. Yeah, this plot's mistaken for the Voodoo Queen, so many people mark on it. And this is the real one of Marie the Voodoo Queen, and you can see the dove there. It was anything but easy to get the dove there. They weren't catering to this. Alright, this video part of the cemetery of St. Louis part 2 is a few blocks over. Now there's no guides for this at all, so the guide, when you're at the other cemetery 1 of St. Louis, they will point you in direction. You got to find it on your own. So it's about 2 or 3 blocks away that you'll walk to, but once you find it, it's a pleasant surprise. Much better to film out there. You don't have anyone hawking over you saying put your video camera up, don't film, and there's actually a little bit more space to film, but it's minus the Nicolas Cage and Marie the Voodoo Queen's plot without the guide. But as far as filming, there was less people there. It was much more pleasurable. But here's some more of that damaged and defaced plots. I've never seen anything like this at any cemetery I've ever been to this extent. Alright, start winding up my trip to the St. Louis cemeteries. Remember, part 2 is free to go to. You don't need a guide, but part 1 you have to pay somewhere around $20-something for a guide. It can be less than that if you shop around. Alright, we switch to our next excursion, the Swamp Fan Boat alligator excursion, and it was great. Now this shuttle there, they were awesome. I'm gonna say they were so nice. They gave us a guided place, showed us where to take pictures. Really good service. And here was a local alligator hunter I met at the bar that you go to before you go there. Now this was amazing. This was a open market where they take the alligators after they're like a wholesale market, and you can buy seafood, alligator, oysters, crabs, etc. When you get off the excursion van, make sure you step to the left and check out this wholesale market to the left. It's worth your time to take a look at it. It is a little bit out of the way, but I made the time to go see it. And this is the real deal here. These are real people. They really do this stuff as you see on TV with a little bit tweaked, so they can't show you everything on TV, but it's pretty darn close. Alright, as you walk into the harbor, you'll first see this boat. It looks a lot like the boat from Jaws. And here's the Ultimate Swamp Adventures. And when you come in to get your ticket reservation, you'll see the Garthfish. And here we are from the dock. This is how it looks, and this is what it is. It's really cool. Alright, in this next frame coming up, you'll see the Dove Guy's personal dove, which has traveled with me all around the world, from Russia to Saudi Arabia. It's very similar to the Travelocity gnome that you see, the little elf that you see on TV, except I have the dove. And I'd say the dove's probably more famous. Alright, it's making our way through the channels in the swamp. We're at a lower speed, so you didn't need the earmuff protection at this stage until you got higher. And then I met up with these other people from Australia, and they like to party. And we had a good time on this airboat. And as we made our way to the swamp, we soon got to see the alligators in the wild. And this is the first experience I've ever seen alligators in the wild. Now, they were smaller than the ones you see that are stuffed in all the Bourbon Street stores, but it was quite an experience seeing an alligator in the wild. And coming up in the frames soon to come after this, you'll see a wild alligator. Alright, after seeing the wild alligators, we went up through other channels where real live people, Cajuns and others, live on the swamp. Now this is a reserve owned by some famous Italian family, and all those other details you'll have to look into it, but it's quite a big reserve, and these people, how I understand it, lease the property, including this fabulous Ultimate Gator fan boat excursion company. And that's how it works. So it really was a great capture. And in my opinion, it blows anything that Disney ever tried to do. All right, now we're picking up the speed and we're starting to kick some butt over the swamp. Yeah, the closest thing I can ever remember this, I think as a kid, there was a show called Flipper, and the father was like a game warden, and he had the airboat that he'd go through, and this was similar to that, but I've never been on one before. And if you haven't been on one, it isn't a cheap excursion, but it's valued pretty close to what it's worth. So you're looking about 75 to 100 bucks for one of these, depending what you go on. If you want the airboat, now there's an engine boat. I think it's like 35. It's less expensive, but you might as well do it while you're there. And I suggest the airboat, fan boat over that one. But if you're low on budget, you need to get out there, just use the motorized one. But you'd be missing out that experience and that culture. We had a blast, let me tell you. Alright, that winds up our airboat gator excursion. It was awesome. Thanks to the gators and ghosts. Alright, and the next stop was the Mardi Gras World. And that was really another stop you should go see. And here's a few short clips of my experience at this Mardi Gras museum. Alright, I wandered up the Mardi Gras Museum. It's also called the Mardi Gras World, and there's a couple of them, but the Mardi Gras World is the one you want to go to. And I went back to Bourbon Street, had a few drinks, and as I was down having a few drinks through the bars and going into some more stores where the Gators are seen, I hooked up with, who do you know? Trump and the leader of North Korea. And boy, we partied. We had a great time. Who knows there were going to be peace made in New Orleans on Bourbon Street with Trump. All right, here's one of the fabulous excursions we went on. We went on one of the last of 2 steamboats in the United States, and one happens to be in New Orleans, and it was quite an experience. Now here's the engine room. It is awesome to see this culture, and I got some film to show you what it looks like. It was really, really a great experience. And the food, get the food package. You need to try the food. Now, if you're on a diet, I hear you. You got to go off it and stick to it. But it was really good, and it was quite an experience. This is another I'd say you must do when you're in New Orleans. It was really, really a good adventure. Now, the staff there at the bar, they were awesome. And you can get really good service there because everyone's up waiting. You just go down to the bar. And this woman here, she just dialed us in. Look her up. She took really good care of us for our meal and other services we needed on this steamboat excursion. All right, this was a great museum, the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. It's nationally known as one of the top museums for World War II memorabilia. And if you like that and you want to learn about history, you want to see the real heroes, that why we have this free country, go here and learn. It was really our last real war where we didn't have politicians fighting it for us. We had a real fight. And it was the real heroes of America. You want to see them? They're on the walls, or some of them are on the walls of this facility. But look at it, it's an experience.
Stairway to the stars and climb that stairway to the stars with love beside us to fill the night with a song. We'll hear the sound.
All right, in this museum, you're first going to the main part that I showed you in the frames, and it's more like guns and different places we went through, the Asian theater that we went against Japan, then also the European theater against Germany and Italy. So you'll see that. But when you want to see these airplanes, you have to walk out a couple blocks, and you need to do this because the airplane part is really unique on its part, and you need to see it. So walk the extra couple blocks and go out of the facility to the other part of the facility and see this part. You wouldn't want to miss it. That's my suggestion if you go to this museum. And it doesn't cost any extra. They give you a little button that goes on your neck.
It would be heaven to climb to heaven with you.
Alright, I started winding up my trip to the World War II Museum in New Orleans, and it's a good one. And back to Bourbon Street for lunch and a couple cocktails. Hey, here's Ganesh and an alligator again, and then one of my great heroes growing up, Red Fox of Sanford and Son. And then here's one of the streets, and this is one of our local cities, Orange County, Santa Ana. And here's one of the restaurants we ate at on Royal Street. Now, probably a block off Jackson Square, you'll see candy stores. They were really, really good candy. I'm not a big candy person. And also, you'll see by Jackson Square the 300th year anniversary of New Orleans. And here's by the Jackson Square. And then you'll see another shot here. And then here's another on the statue before they probably ripped this one down, as they're ripping down a lot of the historical statues. Hopefully they don't take down the Pope soon, but you never know, this crazy place. Alright, here's the chapel, Jackson Square. It was breathtaking. It looks like many ones I've seen in Europe and other places of the world. It's a very, very well designed and orchestrated chapel. And there's the Holy Spirit, the White Dove. Like I said, it's more famous than the Gnome and many other places. And there's my buddy Jesus. And then I rented out a taxi bicycle, and it was fun.
Hello.
I'm on a bicycle taxi, and this is a must-do when you are in New Orleans.
Absolutely. We're going down Royal Street. But, yeah, there's some streets around here. Oh, man. Feels like you're off.
Hey, if we can all get along, you can too. Alright, you want to see more reviews and more? Sub to our station and keep traveling.